There are legends that discuss what may have been the first form of life to roam across the surface of Terraria. Which creatures could have given rise to the vast and diverse variety of life that flourishes both on and below the surface? Some posit that it was the most unlikely of beings, simple worms, thought by most to be mindless creatures with little to offer anyone. It may transpire though that these unsuspecting organisms had a power and adaptability that would make all of a life a reality. Gods had begun, humanity had players deep and challenging, different is less likely to get me horribly In the early inception of life on Terraria, a pantheon of godlike beings known as the Overseers experimented with different forms of life to place on their newly created world. They wanted something that could adapt to any environment and could give birth to other life. Something that was sentient to an extent was clearly needed. And after observing distant planets for inspiration, the Overseers choose to create a creature with an unusual body type. It would be long and slender, having no legs but able to burrow through the ground with ease, becoming known by the future truly sentient beings as the Worm. Despite their simple body shape, worms were some of the most adaptive and versatile creatures in all of creation. Their heads could be changed into any form they pleased, and given enough time, so it was. The worms that floated around in space became the wyverns, beings of great power who gained flight after absorbing souls of flight from the sentient harpies of the Sky Islands. Some would burrow into the shifting sands of the desert, their bodies becoming rough and jagged due to the dry and hostile terrain, their mouths filled with spikes to trap any food it came across in that barren wasteland. Some even travelled as deep as the underworld, where the lava would burn away their skin, leaving them as just skeletons of what they once were. Their essence had been mixed with that of the Overseers themselves though, and so they continued to live, even after nothing but bones was left of them. There were some which even grew to become three-headed serpents, capable of unspeakable dark magic. Their droppings also inherited a portion of the Overseer's almost unlimited power, and what started off as puddles of slime began to move and slowly hop, becoming some of the most common and adaptive creatures themselves, becoming accustomed to almost any environment, even ones that did not yet exist. When the outer god known as the Blighted One, more commonly referred to as Okram, came to Terraria, it saw the planet's potential for creating almost limitless versions of itself. To bring terror to the pantheon of outer gods, it began spreading a darkness across Terraria that the now evolved humans named the Corruption. The corruption spread like cancer, and even the race of dryads was weakened by the slow destruction of the purity. Eventually, almost everything which had come into contact with the corruption was transformed into horrifying abominations. That was, of course, other than the worms, who weren't infected by the plague, but simply adapted and managed to thrive in the corruption as world feeders. As a matter of fact, almost anything that any cosmic being had tried to throw at the worms would simply be shrugged off. Even the harpies of the sky had become corrupted, but the wyverns remained unchanged. There was one worm though, which absorbed so much power in its lifetime that its physical form could no longer maintain their connection to the living world and began to fade away. The worm scoured the land looking for a solution until he discovered a lunatic cult seeking to free the Dark Lord of the Moon from his lunar prison. The lead cultist offered to teach the worm abilities to preserve its essence in the living realm in exchange for its undying servitude. The worm would agree, and soon would become known as not just a worm, but a phantasm dragon. The worms may resemble lower life forms, but they were actually organisms that would give birth to the slimes, which themselves evolved into all Terrarian life as we know it today. Thank you for watching everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. This episode was originally written by Infinite Nemesis and submitted as part of Rational Gamers' Your Lore initiative. Because of the quality of the submissions, I would love to see more of what you have. So if you've written some of your own Terraria lore and want to see it on the channel, then send it through to contactrationalgamers@gmail.com. Remember to subscribe for more of your lore, support the channel for as little as $1 a month on Patreon, and have a great day.